Many of the things that I've been discussing on my channel about the book Catcher in the Rye thematically do relate. There are many commonalities between that book and Alexander Pushkin's very epic poem called Eugene Onegin. However, when you look at them on an even deeper level, when you go past just the tip of the iceberg, you obviously see culturally and even philosophically that they serve very different purposes. Obviously, as I've mentioned, Eugene Onegin, though it is also like Catcher in the Rye about this sort of disillusioned character who perhaps perceives a kind of pretense or a kind of, let's just say, to make it easy, since I'm not fully adept or at understanding this character's psychology, but let's just say absurdity, the ridiculousness of human beings, perhaps. And there might be some truth and there might be some bias in his perspective, in Eugene Onegin's perspective, right? And that's essentially what the heart of his bitterness, of his cynicism is. It's a distrust of human beings. And that is what Holden Caulfield indeed has in common when he calls everybody phonies. However, though, I get the sense with Eugene Onegin that in some ways there is more complexity, is that his disparaging attitude towards other human beings could indeed have more validity, more insight than it does in Holden Caulfield, right? He is far more educated. He's a nobleman. He's not just a sort of a psychologically messed up teenager, right? However, though, you can see how even this knowledge, this understanding, kind of leads to this ultimately very self-destructive kind of behavior. Ending up in very selfish behavior as well. I mean, the part of Eugene Onegin where he gets into a duel with his friend because his friend caught him cheating on his wife. Not his wife, but a woman that he was having this romantic affair with, right? And Eugene Onegin was already, up until that point, kind of having this kind of cold and calculating kind of mysterious air about him. You don't really know you feel like you never know how to read him. You never know what his intentions are, really, and he rejects the love of Tatiana, but however, on the other hand, with Holden Caulfield, you get the sense that he is, his perspective that the world is full of phonies is really a culturally sort of programmed perspective that ideally, what J.D. Salinger wanted, I presume, is that there'd be tons of loners, increasing number of loners like that around that can be easily manipulated and sort of brought into this kind of melancholy sort of culture, and their weakness could essentially be exploited. And that would create sort of this new, very dangerous revolution that may have a very insidious effect that may not be immediately apparent at first, right? So obviously those are the qualities, I think, that are much darker, right? And that's why most of his perspective in the book sounds very almost very robotic and very repetitive, right? There isn't really much variety. There isn't really much imagination in it, and many people have even argued that there's a lack of story in it. So culturally, those two stories are indeed coming from a very different ethical perspective, right? And a different, I think, also different motivations, really, about how they wanted to shape people, right? Eugene Onegin still lived in a world where there was a very clear purpose. There was a moral purpose that the writer obviously believed in very strongly, and that the protagonist, Onegin, was not living up to, given his own sort of fatal flaws, which ultimately didn't seem to really mitigate his empathy, his passionate but sometimes very distasteful insight into the people around him. You know, but instead of becoming constructive with it, instead of becoming a satirist, instead of becoming some kind of social commentator, it just turned inward, right? And it turned into a kind of self-destructive and also very selfish behavior.